right, my name is Bill Howard. I am 90 years old, and I'm the proud grandfather of my grandchild, Grant Conversano.
So the first question is, what has been the largest change you've seen in society over your lifetime?
The greatest change, of course, has to be December the 7th, 1941. That was a Sunday afternoon that the Japanese struck Pearl Harbor. And all of us, everywhere, were looking around to find a geography lesson. Where in the world was Pearl Harbor? And it was amazing. And during that period of time, for the next 4.5 years, it was a transition, not only for me, but for every young man and other people in the country, but particularly for every mother, son, 18 years and older. We were called upon to serve our country in one way or the other. And that was the period that the most change that I have ever seen.
What has been the proudest moment in your lifetime?
There are many in some ways. The major one and the longest of time had to be that day on August 5th, 1950, that I had the privilege of standing beside one of the most beautiful girls I'd ever seen and being wedded to her. And we have lived together for the last 62 years. She's still my bride.
How has being in World War II affected your life? How has serving in World War II changed your life?
It moved those of us that were just out of high school. We grew up fast. It was amazing what the next 4 to 4.5 years meant to each one of us, and it was entirely a different experience for each. We had the privilege of we registered for service immediately after Pearl Harbor was struck. And then we were subject to the draft, and they drafted all the available men at that time, 18 and over, for the draft. And for those of us that were 18, the boys another year or 2 years ahead of us were drafted first, so to speak. And it gave us an opportunity that we could choose, if we so desired, the branch of service that we'd like to be in. And I chose the Army Air Corps at the time. And it was a matter of taking the test, being able to pass it, and then we were passing the physical. Once we did that, and we waited then to be called up. And in that process of training, serving, in my instance, I was, all the young men wanted to be a fighter pilot. We wanted to fly the P-51 and the P-47, but I was too tall. I was 6'2", and so that meant that I would be flying twin-engine and four-engine aircraft, and which I did. And as I went through training, and we came to the point of graduation, we had to make a request for what we'd like to fly. All that, you didn't get everything you asked for. Naturally, twin engine, I would love to fly on a P-38. I never got to fly a P-38. But then I did get to be an instructor, and I taught flying in 2 flying schools prior to getting out to combat aircraft. And then I was able then to fly many different kinds, B-25s, B-24s, B-17s, C-47s, a multitude of training planes. And as such, by accumulating sufficient flying time, I was qualified for the B-29s. And as my last airplane was B-29, I was scheduled to go to the field for the B-29s in Florida, and I was based at Boca Raton, Florida at the time. And I was about 4 months away from being the commander of a B-29 and going to the South Pacific, Tokyo, in that area. And Mr. Truman dropped the bomb, and the war was over.
So, what have you enjoyed the years that you have been retired from the workforce?
We have, it's been a wonderful experience for us that we have traveled a lot, and we have our middle child, Stuart, went to Montana to stay 1 year, and we found that that 1 year turned into 30-some years. And now we have 2 grandchildren there. One is 8 years old now. And I'm checked in for his high school graduation, and it looks like I'll have to be 114 at that time. But I'm going to try to make that and be there for his graduation. And he has lived in Bozeman, Montana, but now the family have moved to Helena, Montana. So we have enjoyed very much the traveling of the West. But one of the biggest things is that I had promised myself during the war years that I had the opportunity to see all of the United States from the air, and realizing what a beautiful, wonderful place it is and was for me. From the Rockies and to the deserts and the places. I promised myself then that if I had a family, we would see that. And so we have traveled, once our family got big enough, we spent 5 weeks going to California with a trailer. What a wonderful experience that was, and it was good for all of our children that they were able to see early what this country was all about. And also then we went to the Bahamas. I had flown in the Caribbean, and it was impressive to me. And we have followed that still in our trips to Montana and such. I did little tours into Montana for a while with elderly people, put them in a bed and breakfast, and had a 15-passenger van that we spent about a 6-day vacation trip, flying out, ranging and all, and then we thoroughly enjoyed it when my wife's sister went along with us on those trips. So we've had a good time, and of course it meant that I could spend more time with my little business of Holiday Ice Rink, and I operated it for 35 years, and had a wonderful time.
Is there anything in your life you wish you could go back and change?
Oh, there always is, but there's one thing about that time. And that's the thing, where we all have an even amount of time. And one thing that has struck in my mind, it's funny how memories, and it's sort of like serial numbers. I can now 14148147. I was my aviation cadet number as an officer of 0830857. Yeah, you can peel them off. But one of the things that I remember had to do with time, and it always comes up. The moving finger writes, and having writ moves on, nor all your piety or wit shall lure it back to cancel half a line, nor all your tears wash away a word of it. Omar Khayyam of the 11th century, and it was true then, and it's true now. Time is the big thing for all of us, and you can't change yesterday. So that philosophy opens the door for many connotations that you need to plan better. You need to think about, you can't change yesterday at all. Nothing way. You can't go back and make it. But it is claimed that time is the use of time, is the wisdom that we learn. However, that doesn't mean that you can't think about the past. The past is the foundation and the basis for what happens in the future. Another one that I think about was it's arts in the archives. It's etched in stone. Heritage of the past is a seed that brings forth the harvest of the future. And that is true. That's true about this country. It's true about whatever. It's the experience. And that's what we enjoy as we build on that and try to do that. But all in all, we have a lot more of thankful things than we do wishes that we hadn't done. It's just that way.
I guess that goes into my next question is, what advice or wisdom can you give to the younger generation about growing older through life?
I have been very fortunate, particularly, and I haven't mentioned that as yet. And this is true in your situation as I look at your life to date. Scouting played a very important part in my early life. I started out in scouting at Forest Hill Methodist Church for my early things, tenderfoot and second class. But then I heard about the Troop 7 at the First Presbyterian Church. And fortunately, it was open for those of us who wished to go. And I was blessed with having the kind of leadership that you've had in your time with scouting with Andy. J.I. Paget was my scoutmaster. What a magnificent man he was. And he helped not only me, but others in the troop to progress. And I had the privilege of becoming an Eagle Scout, and that was a foundation that has helped me through life. There's no question about it. Those trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent still hold true. And they will hold true from now on out. And I certainly am proud of you and what you've done in scouting. Eagle Scout. It's special. I had good parents and working hard parents. And that was a big plus in my side, very much.
You are considered to be a part of the greatest generation, as Tom Brokaw, believe, said that, or was it
Brokaw?
Yes,
yes.
Tom Brokaw. Growing up through the Great Depression and World War II, and do you think that statement is true?
It depends upon where you come from and what you look for. I do feel that it was a period of time that this country came together as it had never done before. And it came together in a way that hopefully we could see that it might do better later, but everywhere you went, you were well accepted. And this was true throughout the war years and soon thereafter, in the 50s. The whole attitude of the country changed because we were all in the same boat, so to speak. It was also a time that the civilian population as such experienced all of the problems of the military and others at that time. Rationing was there, and it affected every level of the population, and everybody pitched in to make it better. I'll never forget my first Christmas away from home, and it was in Lafayette, Louisiana. Every home in that town, there were not that many military people in that. It was my first time in flying, it was in the basic flight training period, and there were about 100 pilot trainees training at that field, and every house in that town was open to us at that particular time. It made a very definite impression upon me. I would love to see that kind of togetherness, that kind of feeling once again, but I'm sad to say that I fear for our country now more than I have ever. I hate to say that, but it's true.
We're talking about your generation now. What do you think future generations will have to face? Do you think they will have easier or greater challenges than you have had growing up?
I would think that they would have probably equal challenges in so many different ways. The thing that's happening now, technology is moving so fast that it's hard, particularly for a person my age, to keep up with. And the idea that a drone, and this has happened within the last 4 or 5 years, can do all of the things that's happening now. Just this past week I read where they had experimented in a battle type situation with a drone helicopter that delivered supplies in Afghanistan automatically, just like the rockets that carry supplies to the station circling the earth. The airplanes or the helicopters went into troubled areas, landed, delivered the products that they could take off, and then cranked up, took off by itself again, and went back to its base to get another load to take back. Amazing that you can have something like that. And this is what is in the future. Right now, in this country, there's an aircraft flying across the country that's hard to believe, using just the sun as its energy source. And it has made its first trip from California to Phoenix, which was a night and day trip. And he was in the air for 20 to 21 hours at 45 miles an hour, at 30,000 feet at times, and made it successful. So I don't know, I do know that he's going to St. Louis, and then from there, there's about 5 cities that he'll touch. And he should be, by the weekend, he should be in New York. One single place airplane flying strictly on the sun. No other fuel. And so this is what your generation and the things that you will be seeing 20 years or 15 years from now. Oh, what I would give. What I would give to come back and be able to see what has developed in the next 20 years. That'd be fascinating. And so I think you've got a big challenge. But the thing of it is that you definitely are going to be prepared for it. You've got the foundation already to be able to cope with what this new generation is going to give to you. And you still have a year of high school before you go to college. It's amazing. But it'll be interesting. And again, it still comes up to the individual. You can be whatever you want to be. No question about it. And I was impressed with your Keystone speech. I agree with you wholeheartedly that you need to leave this earth better than what you found first. And I'm sure you're going to feel that, I'm sure. So you've got a good time coming, and you're going to make it a good time.
What has been your biggest fear in your life?
I as I think back on that, the time that I felt mostly in danger was on a trip as a 20, I think perhaps I was 22 years of age or 23, but I was on a flight out west in a B-24, and there were only three on board, myself, my crew chief, and my co-pilot. And as I flew out of Boca Raton, Florida, and went up to the turn at the in Louisiana, going west, we had tremendous weather storm that I was involved in, and with thunderstorms embedded within the clouds. And that was the worst of the time that, when I look back on it, I would say that it was the most fearful. In a thunderstorm, you have no choice really, particularly at that time, about turning around and getting out of it. It was too dangerous to try to make a U-turn. Best thing you could do was slow the airplane down to a cruising speed for going into heavy weather, and just hoping that everything would work out sooner or later, because we didn't know where all those thunderstorms were. And in a thunderstorm, you have the tremendous up and down drafts, and it was like riding an elevator, and we would be going up, and then all of a sudden we'd be coming all down, and you had to keep the airplane level because you could not control what you were going up and down. So you wanted to keep enough airspeed with the air running over the wings to have the lift to maintain flight. And when we got through with that finally, and I was in Louisiana, Lake Charles, and finally the storms passed away, and that's where I was going in that particular flight, and we were able to land there in sunshine, but we were solid wet. Perspiration, and I guess that would be the biggest fear that I can remember. However, I have been blessed with a good life in that sense. Really, I've heard of people that were in situations, and we know about them, that were short on food. But I've been blessed with a good life in health to date, and so we count our blessings.
And the last question. What has been your greatest accomplishment?
Well, of course, as I mentioned earlier, family played the major thing in our family, and your grandmother and I, we're living more now on memories than we are anything else, and this is such a joy that we regularly think back on the things that we have done together. As far as personal, Bill Howard, the thing that has been most pleasing to me has to be Holiday Ice Rink. Your grandmother gave me our third child which happened to be your mother. Bless her heart. And I had been with Coca-Cola at the time for some 20 years or more, and we had a brand new house, and she had a good job as a teacher, and I was had a stable job with Coca-Cola. I also worked with a family company, and realizing that there was a glass ceiling, so to speak, and I just had to have something different or extra. I couldn't give up what I had. And that's how Holiday Ice Rink was born. And in that, I had 35 years of joy. And we can find, if we go out, I very seldom go out with my wife or into a dinner place or somewhat, that I do not run into a person who sometimes now is close to 60. And they'll speak to me and they'll tell me, I had a wonderful time at Holiday Ice Rink. And as such, I have had the privilege, and so has Sarah Jane, in learning to know people from all over the world. And she went with me over the years to conventions in all the major cities of the United States. Every year we went to a convention, and I was involved in the organization. Incidentally, I have here a picture of a friend of mine, Bob Unger, ice skating. And this man is a German fighter pilot during World War II. And I'm in the process now of working with our friend that worked with him, Larry Laborde. And I have the logs that he had from his military flying right here. And it shows how they trained their German fighter pilots during World War II. And I'm going to give that to the museum in Charlotte sometime in the near future. So we're still getting good things. Just recently I went to Knoxville and drove my old Zamboni, and that was a joy. Larry Laborde, I gave it to him 7, 8 years ago. He has refurbished it, and we drove it around the rink, and it was publicized in everywhere. And now I'm running into people saying, oh, I saw you on the Zamboni shaving the ice. And it was something else. So I would say that that's been one of the big things in my life in there. Of course, having grandchildren, of course, is also a big pleasure. I want you to know that. You and your brother, Adam, and Russell and Jake in Montana. That's it's special. Thank you for doing this, and I appreciate it.